What's going on, everybody, and welcome to WrestleMania 4. It is the fourth installment of my 39 WrestleManias in 39 days, and we are here, finally, on whatever the hell this WrestleMania ended up becoming. So WrestleMania 4, the entire premise behind this event, was a tournament that would determine the WWF Champion that was vacated for whatever reason. And, the whole big thing was, Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant were going to get buys, and there was a whole tournament structure that was designed for this match. And there were other matches involved with it as well. I'll post the promotional material that I took some of these pictures from here on the side when I get over here. But overall, you want to talk about bloated? That's not all of Rob's notes. I'll update that once I get to them. But this shit blows, y'all. Look at this. Like, this is all the different matches, and I apologize for some of them being bigger than others. It just, I copied them. I had to clip them from 3 different sources because it's a tournament. And so not every image that I could find on it had every single match listed. Some of them only had the tournament. Some only had the first round cards. Some only had, none of them had the Battle Royal. I had to pull the Battle Royal off of the promotional material. So not only was this WrestleMania a mess, preparing to record this was also a mess. So that's fun. But anyway, WrestleMania 4. Let's talk about it. It was at Trump Plaza. That's really the main note I have on the event itself. Obviously, there was a single overarching story that we'll kind of discuss in a little bit. That was really the only point of this entire event. I thought the Bob Uecker and Vanna White stuff was hilarious. It was exactly the dose of energy that this event needed as a whole. Yeah, we'll kind of get into that. As we go through this, you'll start to see why I deeply needed those comedic overtones. Because this event was rough, and we will get to it. You will probably see my mood begin to degrade as we talk about this as we go. We're going to start off with the opening match, which was the Battle Royal, the aforementioned Battle Royal that's right there. Yeah, shit sucked. This was terrible. Nothing entertaining. You put 30 superstars in a ring, or 20 superstars rather, in a ring. It was an invitational battle royal, but with no stakes. Nothing was gained for winning. It was just 20 people that were trying to throw each other over the top rope. I believe this was before the Royal Rumble was a thing, or maybe it was before. Obviously, it was before the Rumble got you a championship match. But I don't remember if the Rumble had actually become a thing yet in general, the event. So this was like the closest thing to it. I hated it. It was boring. It was just slow. You put 20 people in a ring together, and I'll be honest, some later WrestleManias have like 30 people, and it gets even worse. But yeah, I hated this until I got down to like the last 4 people. The last more, I guess, where it got more cerebral, and you actually saw more moves and more like eventful things happening was when it got down to Bad News Brown, JYD, Junkyard Dog, and Bret Hart. Junkyard Dog is still Junkyard Dog. Still don't care for him much. Bad News and Bret were really entertaining. Bret ended up winning this, I believe. Which was kind of like, I guess it cemented Bret Hart as a main level threat for whenever Hogan finally to stop being Hogan. So I guess there's that. But ultimately, if it wasn't for the ending, this would be a 1 for me. I'll bump it up to a 2 because of the ending. The ending was a bit more fun, I guess. Rob, as you can tell, gave this a C- or a 4. That'll end up averaging out to a 3. It's fine there. It's still a D. So it still kind of fits what I would have given it. But yeah, overall, until the end, I didn't really care much for this, personally. It just existed. Coming up next, we have the first actual match in the tournament. We have $1 Million Man versus Jim Duggan, with Andre the Giant out there with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. It was a decent back and forth match, I thought. Decent ending. It didn't end in a fucking horrible disqualification, as you'll see becomes a recurring theme throughout this. Duggan is just, he looks sloppy. doesn't move well, doesn't sell well with Ted DiBiase, what Ted DiBiase's trying to do to him. Ted DiBiase, he really struggled to carry this. He carried this, he did what he could, but it's the first round of a tournament. So, you know, the winner's not going to exact with so much energy because he has to fight in other matches, and ultimately this match suffered because of that. It also suffered because Jim Duggan really couldn't sell or do anything, and they had no chemistry overall. I gave this match a C. It looks like Rob gave it a little bit of a better review than I did. He gave it a C+. I thought it was kind of an average 5 out of 5. Ted DiBiase tries to sell it, carry it. Rob gave it a 6, so we'll keep it at we'll move it to a 6 to keep with Rob's standing, because again, it's a 6 and 5 is going to average out to a 5.5 anyway, which is going to get up to a 6. So we'll leave it there. Again, for anyone that hasn't seen the previous reviews, the reason that these are numbered and Rob's is letters is I started with letters, moved to numbers. I highly doubt anyone is going to WrestleMania 4 first. So if you don't know why, there's 3 other ones. Go watch them first. Next up, we have Don Morocco versus Dino Bravo. First of all, horrible botch started this match from the very beginning. That automatically set the tone for how this match was going to go. Decent back and forth in the middle, heavy hitting moves. You actually saw some moves being used, which obviously told me that neither one of these two was actually going to make it very far into this if they did win, because of how much they were putting on each other. Not only was it a disqualification finish, it was a finish that was so confusing, Replay had to sell it because they didn't sell it well in the match. Which I don't know if you should applaud them for being very slicker with it or degrade them for it for being so bad they didn't sell it right. I don't know. But a replay had to be used to sell it. Not gonna lie, this match could have been decent. I thought the middle was very well done. A horrible botch at the beginning kind of set it on the wrong tone. I thought they recovered decently well to put on a decent match. Again, they actually hit some heavy moves on each other. I almost, according to my notes here, I almost gave it a B. I almost put it at a 7. But the ending sucked, beginning sucked, middle couldn't save it. I knocked this down to a C. It looks like Rob knocked it down to a C-. I'm not going to lie. Based on how the beginning and end went, I kind of agree with Rob here. I think a C- is probably the better thing to do. I think a 4 is accurate, and I think that's where we're going to put this one, at a 4. Really rough beginning, bad ending, middle can't save it. 4. Next up we have Ricky Steamboat versus Greg Valentine. I'll be honest, I actually really like this match a lot, actually. Ricky Steamboat is just absolutely phenomenal. Like, I love Ricky Steamboat. He's absolutely been great. Greg Valentine started off really well. As the match went on, it almost seemed like he was getting out of position, and his selling became delayed and more slow. I don't know if it was because he himself was getting tired because of, you know, the way the match had gone for so long. But I really enjoyed this match. I gave it a B. Based on this, it looks like Rob actually agrees with me and gave it a B. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I thought it was a pretty decent match. Again, Greg Valentine tried to ruin the ending, but Ricky Steamboat is just so good, it just couldn't hurt it. So, where are you? There you are. How do I get you to a 7? There you are. I have to scroll around on this one a little bit. But yeah, Ricky Steamboat, Greg Valentine. Ricky Steamboat being the winner. We're going to go and move this up to a 7. Next up, we have another tournament match. We have Macho Man versus the Natural Butch Reed. This match was just not good at all. Not a great match. Macho Man, you know, the whole event was kind of built around Macho Man. So you could tell that he really wasn't putting a whole lot of energy into this match because he had to fight so many other matches going forward. And Butch Reed just... him carrying the match and him controlling the match just looked very slow and boring and dull, and it wasn't good. No entertainment value whatsoever was given from this match. Macho Man did kind of pulled a Hulk on this one and kind of came back at the very end and hit a couple moves, and that was it. He got dominated the whole match. He hit like 2 or 3 moves, and all of a sudden, boom, match over. Butch Reed loses. Could have been better. I get it. Macho Man's going to have to go through the gauntlet. You can't let him exhaust himself match 1. But I feel like they could have done something better here. Overall, I gave it a D. I'd argue it's towards the 2 rating and a D. Rob seemed to agree, also gave this a D. I feel bad putting this below the Battle Royal, but kind of think this one was below the Battle Royal. So, yeah, that's where we're going to put it. Next up, we have One Man Gang versus Bam Bam Bigelow. For 2 men that are eventually going to end up being like mainline stays and really good in the future and also outside of the WWF, this match sucked. Yeah, this match was just absolute terrible. One Man Gang ends up winning. A horribly boring match. Very slow moves. Very bad selling. Ending made no sense whatsoever. Horrible ref. Bad heel moves. Just an absolute disaster of a match from the very beginning. I gave this an F. Rob gave it a D. Honestly, given the fact that we gave it different ratings, I'll move it up to a 1. I still think this match is an F. It does nothing for either one of these competitors, which is unfortunate again because both of them do well in other things. They do not do well here, and that's really all it is. Next up, we have a match that I was looking forward to when I saw it on the card, and then was grossly disappointed. Is Jake Roberts versus Ravishing Rick Rude here behind me. This match had all the makings of a decent match, and then they fucked it with a draw. Now, listen, I understand that you have to have drama and you have to, do something to obviously cut this card from being a 6-hour Mania, and I get that. But you could have cut some of these other matches that we haven't gotten to yet that are not part of this tournament. You could have cut the Battle Royal. The Battle Royal wasn't necessary. And you could have used that time to give some of these matches actual finishes. And instead, you make Jake Roberts and Rick Rude draw and take each other out. Horrible decision. I can't justify it in any capacity. The match sucked itself. I thought this was an absolute travesty of a match. I thought the ending was terrible. I didn't think any of it made sense. I thought it was slow. Fans were chanting boring, which is insane for 80s fans, which ate up everything that wrestling did. Chanted boring for this match. I know Rob saw some good in it to give it a C. I gave this another F. Rob gave it a 5. I'm going to give this a 1. That's going to average out to a 3, which I think is highly more than it should be. But again, I'll settle for it. But God, I was so excited to see that match and was very much disappointed by it. Next up, we have a match that, quite frankly, I don't know why it's even here. I guess because they had to give Ultimate Warrior something to do, but we have the Ultimate Warrior versus Hercules. Yeah, the good matches for Hercules are done. They're gone now. And this match was just... This is bad. A match between 2 bad sellers, 2 bad offenses, 2 bad workers. It's not a part of the title tournament. It's just a match. I assume they must have had some sort of rivalry or some sort of story going into this match. But again, this is one that I feel like, again, and maybe this is because I'm rewatching it. I didn't watch this going up. I don't know the story behind these 2 fighting at WrestleMania. But I feel like you could have cut this match and given given Jake Roberts and Rick Rude more time. Given Savage and Butch Reed more time. I will say this. It wasn't as dog water as the last 2. So I gave it a D. Because at least it had a finish. At least it ended in a way that didn't make me want to, throw my computer out the window. But it wasn't a good match. Clearly, I am being much more harsher on these than Rob over here is. As Rob gave this match a C as well. Maybe Rob is just more easily entertained than I am by this stuff. Which is weird because... in my friend group, I'm the one that always gets called like give too much praise to the WWE as it is now, and I accept the bad stories a lot more than some of my friends do. But this just seemed, I don't know, this just seemed like a pointless match that didn't need to happen. to me anyway. But anyway, Rob gave it a C. That's going to be a 5. I gave it a 3. Again, it's still a D. 8. That's going to average it up to a 4. We'll accept it, but I just really, yeah. Maybe I just hate the Ultimate Warrior. Maybe that's my issue, honestly. Next up, we have, again, another stinker of a match that I just don't understand. Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. A rematch of last year's WrestleMania. You can tell Andre's getting even worse than he was already. Super slow shocker of an ending with these two taking each other out. Another double elimination in a title tournament match, and you eliminate Hulk Hogan in the second round. I can understand the shock value of eliminating Hulk Hogan and saving that Hogan and Macho Man match for later. I completely get it. It completely makes sense. I respect the decision to eliminate Hulk Hogan and make it so someone else can actually get some of the limelight for once. But the match was just weird. I don't understand the finish. This would have been the one double elimination that I would have understood, honestly. Andre can't do 2 matches, but you want to make that shock value of Hulk Hogan going out early. This would have been the one match where it is acceptable to do a double elimination, but you've done it 3 times now. Well, twice now, and then a disqualification ending. So you've had really shitty first rounds, really bad double elimination already. Now you throw a second double elimination out there. I gave this match a D. I gave it a 2. Sorry, I gave it a 3. I gave this one a 3. Rob gave this one a C-, which is a 4. It's going to end up averaging out to a 4 because of that. Again, don't know why this one is so big. My clipping tool decided I really wanted to see Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, and apparently made it so I didn't want to see these other ones here. But it just, yeah, there it is. It's a 4. As you can tell, this WrestleMania is not setting up to be a very good one. Next up, after that debacle, we have actually a solid match. Ted DiBiase versus Don Morocco. It is the second round match for Ted DiBiase. Listen, you knew Don Morocco wasn't going to be in the final because of the double elimination. Whoever won this match was going to get fast-tracked to the final. You knew Don Morocco wasn't going to be there, so this is a pretty predictable ending, being Ted DiBiase. But because of that, Don Morocco was able to put a lot into this match, and Ted DiBiase was able to put in a little bit more because he was going to have an entire round to sit out that Macho Man was not going to have. I thought these two, had some decent chemistry. Again, there was no unpredictability whatsoever. The finish was just a normal, I guess, kind of nothing burger, if you will. Nothing great happened. Nothing bad happened. It was a decent back and forth. I gave this match a 5. Looks like that is he gave it a C+, which would be a 6. I am completely fine with putting this match at a 6. I'm completely fine with that. Again, I apologize. It's so hard to read up there, but this is again, as I said, I had to take these images from multiple different sites to make it work because they just weren't all there. So I apologize for how bad that one looks. But, as you can tell, the 6 is where we're going to put DiBiase and Morocco. Next up, we have Randy Savage versus Greg Valentine. First of all, I was not expecting Greg Valentine to be the one to come out of the Ricky Steamboat match, which was a surprising finish there. I don't know how I forgot to mention who won that previous match, given that it was Greg Valentine. But yeah, Greg Valentine versus Macho Man Randy Savage. It's another clear case of Macho Man conserving energy, knowing he has to go all the way. Kind of worked around minimal offense. At least Greg Valentine looked better putting on the abuse than his previous fight. Again, it was a rather boring match. From a match psychology point, it wins some favors. Again, the overall story that the event is telling is Macho Man trying to overcome these different odds. This one was far more stakes than the previous one. It was a roll-up pin, so he didn't really have to exert much offense doing a big move to Valentine. also kind of made Valentine look a little weak in the process, but it is Greg Valentine, so I don't think that necessarily kills him. I gave this match a 4 out of 10, which is going to be a C. Based on what I see here, it looks like Rob gave it a D+, so Rob was, which is interesting because I actually thought this match was better than Rob, and usually it's been the opposite from this, but Rob gave it a D+, which is going to be a 3. It's going to average out to a 4, so it's going to end up going where I had put it anyway, because it's going to be a 3.5. But yeah, overall, it's another 4, another mediocre match, and this is starting to get pretty dire, seeing as WrestleMania 2 was not good, and this main event is proving to be kind of along the same vein, and I'm kind of worried that it's going to end up being worse than 2. Next up, we have the Intercontinental title match between Brutus Beefcake and the Honky Tonk Man. Quite frankly, I was pretty disappointed in this match. Again, Honky Tonk Man, just not very good. Brutus Beefcake, not very good. All strikes. There's no moves here. It's all knees and taunts and punches. It was funny to see Jimmy Hart get his haircut after the match, but the ending was just really kind of shitty. Disqualification ending for Brutus because Peggy Sue poured water on Honky Tonk. A mess of a match, and unfortunately, kind of a trend for this entire event. I gave us a D. I gave us a 2. Actually, no, I gave us one. I gave it a 2. I gave this match a 2. It wasn't very good. Based on what I see here, it looks like, again, Rob thought it was more of an average match. 5 plus 2 is going to end up equaling out to a 3.5, so it's going to get bumped up to a 4. The 4s here, I feel like, should be lower. And again, this is why me and Rob both review these. So that way it's not just my opinion dictating the final results here, because that's the beauty of wrestling, is everyone has different preferences and everyone has different tastes and different favorites and wrestlers that are going to obviously hurt the ratings versus anything. But the 4 crowd is getting really clogged up here. It really is. And that's kind of a trend for these early WrestleManias, to be perfectly honest with you. Outside of the last one, which I think averaged like a 5.2, I don't think this one is going to. Not at the rate that it's going. Next up, we have Bobby Heenan and the Islanders, Haku and Tama, versus Coco Beware and the British Bulldogs, Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid. And as you can tell from the image over there, it just includes the Islanders and the British Bulldogs, but the other 2 members are a part of it. With everything that has been gone wrong in this event, at least this one had a normal finish. Normal heel heat, normal heel tactics, which you've come to expect. Nothing that's going to be bad booking or bad decisions. It was a normal 6-man tag match. Does that mean it was good? Fuck no. It was boring for the most part, but at least it was normal, which in my opinion won it favors. I gave this match a 6 solely because it didn't suck. Which again, not probably the best thing to do, but at least it had a normal finish. Rob went with the boring side of things and gave it a C- because again, that's more probably so what it deserved. I'm completely fine with taking the middle ground here and giving this a 5. We don't have one there yet, so might as well fill that empty spot there with something. But ultimately, forgettable match, which unfortunately is most of this card. Next up, we have the semifinal round for Macho Man Randy Savage, who unfortunately still has to fight in this round, even though Ted DiBiase got to go by one, with the one-man gang versus Macho Man Randy Savage. Another disqualification finish. It's a fucking trend at this point, man. It did make the one-man gang look pretty stupid because there was no reason to get a disqualification finish here. But again, it all ties into the overarching story of Macho Man Randy Savage having to overcome some pretty hellacious offense to get to the final. And it made the final worth it. The story of this event got me invested into this match probably more so than I should have. The extreme size difference also makes sense why disqualification works, but how they did it still made him look stupid, which is just, it's not what you want. You know, it really isn't what you want. I gave this match a straight 4 out of 10 because, again, it wasn't the worst match in the world. Not as bad as some of these other ones were, but it was bad. It looks like Rob actually had the same mindset, gave it a C-, which is a 4 as well. So I'm personally glad to see that me and Rob actually agree on something for a change, which is pretty nice. But yeah, that's where this one goes. As you can see, I have updated Rob's notes here because, unfortunately, as I said, this event was bloated as hell, as you can tell by the sheer number of matches on this card right now. Rob didn't have enough space for just one note. But we have 2 matches up. We have the tag match, and then, of course, we have the final match here between Randy Savage and Ted DiBiase. The tag team match between Demolition and Strikeforce, which was Tito Santana and Rick Martel. This was, honestly, a pretty decent match, in my opinion. Rob seemed to agree, gave his match a B. I ended up giving his match a C+, a 6 out of 10. It was start of a very legendary run that Demolition would end up going on for a while. And it happened in a horrible night for it to happen. Unfortunately, the crowd was dead for most of this match because they had just seen a bunch of really trash matches for the entire night. Exciting. It was a very exciting back and forth. Typical 80s style punches, kicks, some big power moves, but nothing flippy, nothing catchy. But for the 80s, it was good. The tag team chemistry was very nice between the 4 of them. Some really great moves, especially towards the end. I thought the pacing was very well in this match. Again, it was such a bad night. The crowd was so out of it. I was exhausted watching. So I can't imagine what it looked like back then. But even I was done at this point, which is really unfortunate because the match wasn't terrible. Again, I gave it a 6. Rob gave it a B, which is going to obviously be a 7. I'm fine with giving this match a 7. I'm fine with putting it there, just so that this card doesn't look like it was complete ass. But that's really all you can do. Congratulations to Demolition on the Tag Team Championships, of course, and what was probably the best match on this card. And finally, we have the main event, Macho Man versus Ted DiBiase. Now, as you can tell, we have not done a match review yet. We're on the main event. We haven't done a match review. I think it's time we change that. Today's main event is going to be me and Rob's match review, so come with me. What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the match review for WrestleMania 4 here. I'm Eric.
Bro, did you do something to your head?
No.
Like, right there? You see it on camera?
It's a bump, and now I'm not going to be able to not see it.
Not see it?
We're here to review...
Look at it! Look at the camera.
I would rather they didn't, honestly.
You look like you're fucking, like, part unicorn. This shit's not even in the center of your head.
But anyway, we're here to review Ted DiBiase versus Macho Man Randy Savage. A match that was, again, seems to be a trend for a lot of these early WrestleManias. The only good match on the card. It was the main event, as I'll talk about in a little bit, of a rousing story of Macho Man's ascent to greatness here. As far as this match is concerned, a couple of major things to note. Obviously, it was a good back and forth between 2 of arguably the time period's better workers. Of course, Hulk Hogan had to get himself involved because what WrestleMania doesn't have Hulk Hogan in the main event. And after the match, the iconic scene with Elizabeth obviously being on Macho Man's shoulders, Macho Man finally having his moment, Hulk Hogan obviously celebrating them and pumping them up, was obviously something that a lot of people still talk about to this day. But what did you take from this match?
The heartfelt moment of Macho Man reconnecting with Miss Elizabeth, being that heartfelt, like, "Oh, Miss Elizabeth, I miss you." And then they have, like, their time in the ring to themselves, kind of pays, like, the fans pay the homage to the wrestlers and the storyline and everything regarding that. Was like the biggest takeaway for me.
I didn't like the fact that they made the Andre the Giant Hulk Hogan rivalry kind of like be a part of this match, because obviously Andre's out there with Ted DiBiase, Elizabeth is out there for Macho Man, then she runs out and gets the it gets the Hulk Hogan, Jesus Christ. But she goes out and gets Hulk Hogan to come in and sit ringside, and then he gets involved with Andre, and it's just, I don't know. I've always had an issue with Hulk Hogan getting involved, like forcing himself to be a main focus of these main events. And of course, it doesn't end here. It continues for the next 6 years. But it's always been frustrating for me. It's always taken away from the event. Of course, that doesn't stop this match from being a very solid B. But given that, sort of like we've done with the last couple ones where we reviewed someone more than once, this is the first time we've done Ted DiBiase. So how do you feel about Ted DiBiase as a wrestler for this time period?
I don't think he's the most technical. I don't think he's the most standout overall, but he took a gimmick and he ran with it. Mm-hmm. The $1 million belt, 100% his idea. I'm going to pay people to do whatever act he tells them to do. The man is just a fucking genius. Mm-hmm. And while he was entertaining from a charismatic standpoint, I don't think his in-ring was the greatest. Mm-hmm. To me, he's kind of like a modern-day Miz without the riches.
Well, Miz is also a much better wrestler than he really leads
on
to be.
That I can agree with. Yeah.
But for me, Ted DiBiase has always been a very, I don't want to say controversial figure, but he's always been a very hot and cold figure for me. Mm-hmm. One storyline could be so hot and he's killing it and it's great and it's the best thing on the card, or it's one of the best stories on the card. And then the next, he's in his rivalry with Virgil that we'll talk about later on.
Dude, okay, real quick. Mm-hmm. I just want to say, rest in peace, Virgil. He died earlier today.
Did he really?
He did. He actually died.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had like early onset dementia, and something related to that, I think, caused. And then he had 2 strokes in the hospital or something like that. So, yeah, to the man that was Ted DiBiase's manager, to being the $1 million champion at one point, to conquering a whole nother wrestling organization, being the top guy there. Congratulations, rest in peace.
Wow, yeah, that's unfortunate. I didn't realize that Virgil had passed away today. Mm-hmm. We're filming this on the 28th of February. But yeah, so obviously, like, for as far as Ted DiBiase is concerned, he's always had a really good story going on, which is, I feel like as a wrestler, it's kind of what your goal is to have like a story that people are betting into and getting into and wanting to see. And Ted DiBiase has always been very good at generating that story, even if it's not the main event story like this was. Generating the story that people actually care and buy into, I think, has always been one of his strong suits. Where he lacks in wrestling talent, he makes up for in wrestling creativity. To an extent, another, rest in peace, Bray Wyatt is also a similar one to that, I feel like. As far as a creative mind, was one of the most creative minds. Maybe wasn't the best on the wrestling side, but creatively trumped everything. I think Ted DiBiase was kind of that for this generation of wrestling. Amazing creative mind that made up for a lack of wrestling ability. And I think that's something that is very landmark for this time period with Ted DiBiase, which is why I thought he was a great fit for Macho Man in this match. And I thought they both played off each other pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about just in-ring talent for Ted DiBiase, really the only thing I know that he does well is his finisher, and that's the chicken wing. And that's about it. I can't really say much. I know that my dad, when I was a kid, when we used to wrestle and stuff like that, He used to always do the two-hand drop, which, I mean, it wasn't a staple to DiBiase, but I guess my dad just really liked his version.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, Randy Savage, like, every wrestler back in the 70s and 80s did the double hand off the top rope, or, the double hand with the knee drop. So it was like an elbow-knee combo. But the biggest thing was his chicken wing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really all I know him for, aside from just his charismatic side.
Yeah, so as far as obviously WrestleMania 4, as I've discussed throughout this video, was the tournament to determine the vacated champion. Now, obviously, I rated this one pretty highly. Do you remember what you gave this one?
I think I gave this a B.
Yeah, I gave it a B as well. And I guess sort of a similar question, which we've kind of asked throughout most of these so far. Obviously, we rated this match highly compared to the others. Is this
15? Is the other 15, right?
Yeah. Is this would you say that this is another match, another Mania rather, similar to WrestleMania 2, where we rated this match higher because it was the only good one? Because a lot of these matches, at least the ones for this tournament, were not good. So do you think that we rated this match higher because it was better than them, or because it was actually a B, like an actual 8 out of 10 match?
I think to a degree I rated it higher because it was one of the better matches compared to all the others. But when it comes to the overall quality of WrestleMania 2 matches versus WrestleMania 2 and 3 versus here, I felt like the matches, even though they were a lot shorter and there was a lot more quantity-wise, the quality of the matches were still okay because they made with what little time they had.
Right. And of course, again, the story of this match was the important one, being Macho Man's ascent. Mm-hmm. Andre the Giant, man, I feel so bad. I've already said this once in the regular review, but he is in this match again, so I think it's worth noting. Vince really ran this man like as absolutely far as he could. Like he can barely do anything. Like he's barely able to move his hand to like swipe at Macho Man's feet in this match, and it's just,
you can tell he's in pain.
Yeah, it was such a sight.
I mean, it's like almost a foreshadow to WrestleMania 14 with Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold. Mm-hmm. Shawn Michaels had like 2 herniated discs and then a bulging disc in like his neck or something like that. I mean, granted, he was out because of back surgery after that, which is why they gave the, spoiler alert, title away. Mm-hmm. But it was almost the same thing. Like, Shawn Michaels was pushed to the absolute limit. Now, could he have just straight up said, nah, like, screw you, because he had that much pull within the company? Sure. But at the end of the day, you're going to do what's best for business and get you money. And that's probably what Andre did as well, although he had a different condition. Right. And I think Vince could have been a little more lax on that. So, but then again, Vince is a fucking monster.
Yeah.
You haven't paid attention to news recently.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that's where we're going to wrap this one up, because the time is getting a little bit lengthy on us here. So that is all that I have to say on this match. Anything else you'd like to add? No. In that case, guys, you enjoy the rest of the review. Back to me. As you can see, I have already placed the Macho Man Randy Savage matchup here in the 7 out of 10 category. I think that's based, like I said, based on what me and Rob were just talking about. I think that's a pretty good setup here. Overall, this event was disappointing for me. I felt, I thought pretty high things when I saw it was a tournament, but yeah, so many disqualifications, so many bad booking decisions, so many odd swerves. It had a couple of highs, a couple matches were good, but everything else was so middling and bottom tier that I lost interest in this. It's probably one of my least favorite WrestleManias so far. There are definitely some that push it, but overall, this one was not very good. But the overall for this one is going to be a 4.44. Which, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense with the amount of 4s that we have here. We have a couple of 7s that are going to balance out the 1s, which is obviously going to push the average up a little bit. But yeah, overall, a 4 out of 10 event. This is, I'll be honest, it averages out to a C- event. I thought this Mania was more of a D rating, but, you know, that's why it's not just me that rates these. So we get more of a balanced output here. But overall, disappointed event. Really hope these get better. They do. Kind of. Sort of. How did we get to 40 of these again?